For those unfortunate ones who watched my May episode of this series before, this isn't the first time that I've reviewed this group. I previously reviewed their single Magic, which was a pretty sizable hit for a couple of weeks before inevitably falling off, thanks to the sales evaporating. Since then, they've been gearing up for an album release, and they've been dropping promotional singles, with this being the latest of them. As far as the single goes, this sounds like something that would have fit the landscape of the early 2010s pop scene in the West, especially since at the time that a lot of the hits back then were based on electropop. This actually is a solid rendition of those tracks, but it definitely has a very modern sound that doesn't make any of the production sound cheesy and canned back then. Now, since I've started studying Japanese the past month, I've noticed that the word koi means love, and so the title in English doesn't make sense as the structure of those three words are off. So at first I thought the song was about making love, but once I looked at the lyrics, I think it more so translates as love me too, which makes a lot more sense, considering the lyrics consist of a guy going through the stages of love, and how he's addicted to it and wants his partner to feel the same way. This is a good start to this week. Let's see what else is around. Now, I'm pretty familiar with this band before I even started to become a hardcore J-pop listener. Mr.Children's single Hanabi is one of my favorite songs ever, as I feel like it really captures that summer spirit in a melancholic tone in the first 3 quarters of the song, without the melancholy being overblown. And then the bridge winds up setting the perfect transition into the final chorus, where now that the song has some blissfulness to it. Also, it probably has one of the most notable guitar riffs in all of Japanese music as well, so I do have quite the soft spot for Mr.Children thanks to Hanabi. Sadly, while I do like the production with this track, the lead singer, Sakurai Kazutoshi, doesn't really have the vocal presence really to elevate this into a memorable and noteworthy melancholic love song. Instead, it wound up to be pretty uninteresting. And that's also including how it's trying to be dreary and it just winds up becoming boring. Next. So apparently this idol group used to have a different alias that will be displayed on screen before the final 5 members of the previous group graduated and now formed BMK. Now, there are 2 things I want to reference here, and both fall into the category of, was that really necessary? The first being, why did the members graduate and then all of a sudden seemingly just formed an entire new group? That made my brain just absolutely fry up. The second being this song, as just another stereotypical male idol love song with your average cheap and compressed horns, with the strings being completely faded in the mix, and really emphasizing the xylophone twinkles, when in reality that should be the last thing that is mostly exposed in the entire production. It doesn't make this bad by any means, but it makes it feel undercooked and not serious at best. Now on to the soundtrack singles proper. This is going to be a theme song for a new upcoming movie called The Silent Service, and from what I've seen, there's going to be a massive cast for this film. Now, Ado is no stranger to big soundtrack singles, as of course last year she wound up making a whole album for One Piece film Red, which is still her best work by an absolute landslide, as nothing she's released has even been on the same tier this year. Although Dignity supports Ado in a big way, as one of the most legendary rock duos, BUDDiS, wound up composing and producing this track, making it the first time that this collaboration between these two has happened. Also, congratulations on 35 years, BUDDiS. That's a milestone in of itself. Now, the last time I talked about this band, it was my first ever voided review in history, and it still has been that way to this day. Now, since this is my first actual real exposure to BUDDiS, I was quite intrigued to see how this collaboration would wind up turning out. And after finally listening to it, reassures me that Ado needs to collaborate with big artists and get out of that utaite niche, which it winds up unlocking her biggest strengths as an artist, as this is damn good. BUDDiS do an amazing job with the production to back Ado with the acoustic guitars and the piano line in the verses, and then on the chorus they full send this track into melancholic rock. That combined with Ado belting on the chorus and using her falsetto to really make this a very emotional listen. I'm going to keep shouting this from the rooftops to Ado and her team as they come across my videos. Stop collaborating in your little utaite bubble. I know that's where you came from, but it's time to let it go. These tracks are what bring out your strengths and authenticity as a singer, Ado. I want more of tracks like this, or just straight rock bangers. I cannot stress that enough.
You're so bright as Venus, just fly away. Wake up now.
Now hey, look, I just talked about Produce 101 Japan a couple of weeks ago, and look who decided to release a new single. To be honest, Venus might be my favorite out of all of the charting entries from JO1. Yeah, sure, the lyrics are very cliche, talking about this girl like she's so wonderful, she's like their Venus in their sky, but this is by far the best produced track from them that I've heard thus far. Considering the instrumentation has this blissful but yet powerful sound, mainly in the bass, the strings, and the processed but well executed vocal harmonies are what bring this track to life. This one is definitely getting added to my Spotify playlist due to its replay value. Good stuff. You know, it's funny that I referenced One Piece earlier because I didn't even realize before making my script that apparently a song that wound up charting this week was from One Piece. There really isn't much to talk about it though, as this is the newest opening for the long-running anime. At this point, pretty much everybody knows their single Habit that wound up blowing up on TikTok when it first got released. It wound up giving sekainoowari their first major hit in years, and it seems like the success of Habit wound up getting a lot of big opportunities for them. And getting an anime opening for One Piece is a massive deal as well. Now, this is not me saying that sekainoowari was completely irrelevant before Habit, as that became the theme for the Holic live-action movie that came out, and Holic was also a big manga series at the time. Now, normally with anime openings, I don't really tend to set my expectations very high, as I'm only just going to be disappointed in the end if I'm expecting something good. But you know what? This is a nice opening. I do think some of the production choices are odd, mainly that before the chorus, it actually has this marching band type of sound before the chorus drops. Then once it drops, you wind up getting the bouncy dance percussion amongst the orchestral strings and the horns. It winds up working better than I expected it to. Referring back to the marching band sound, you wind up getting a hefty dose of that on the bridge because you get a trumpet and drum solo tied together there. It makes the bridge have an oddly effective transition into the final chorus. My final verdict on this is, I can say this is one of the first anime openings in a while where I feel like it was actually made for an extended track, and that's usually on my good list.
The future is calling, 君が信じててくれた限り.
Before listening to this, I was just hoping that both the song title and the band name being the exact same would be the most interesting thing for me to review here. Thankfully, that didn't turn out to be the case at all. This is another track that I relatively liked. But at the same time, I've also heard this exact same upbeat, jittery synth-pop sound from male idol groups multiple times, with the only thing really standing out is that kick-ass guitar solo and the rap verse on the bridge, as well as how good the vocals were in this as well, especially in the chorus. Otherwise, yeah, it's cool, it's a good listen, but it isn't really anything noteworthy unless you're new to this type of sound. I swear, what's up with all these new entries making it difficult for me this week to even find a song that gives me a remote speck of negative feelings towards it? Because after Southern All-Stars' previous release being Bon Girl Koyuta, which was the song that was borderline meme-worthy in of itself, this follow-up turned out to be a very sweet song about Kuwata Keisuke reminiscing over memories he had with late musician Sakamoto Ryuichi, who was a musician of a famous band in the late 70s and early 80s called Yellow Magic Orchestra. Now, Kuwata Keisuke's reasoning behind making this track is because he wanted to carry on Sakamoto's legacy for his strong negative feelings on removing trees in Japan as part of the redevelopment plan that was going on. This song also winds up concluding Southern All-Stars 2023 trilogy, which, if you didn't know about that, it's pretty interesting in of itself. I would look up articles on the subject at hand. This song wound up becoming a good conclusion to end Southern All-Stars trilogy as it delivers a powerful message and some melancholic but not over-dramatized production to really make this track not only seem genuine, but very memorable as well. Well done, Southern All-Stars. You deserve your break for the remainder of this year. And to round things out, we have a new single from one of the most notable drama shows this season, from one of the most notable male idol groups throughout the Johnny & Associates agency. This is for the finale of that season, and as per usual, it had a pretty strong sales week, but thanks to Billboard Japan updating their formula to weaken sales a couple of years ago, as well as removing tweets and online sales thanks to purchasing in bulk, it's a lot harder to snag a #1 hit thanks to this. In fact, lots of idols from the Johnny and Associates agency have struggled to get #1 hits, and some even had a tough time making the top 10 on certain occasions, so it makes this debut a lot bigger than how it actually turned out. This track also had a ton of support behind the scenes, as one very esteemed artist named Sheena Ringo was the one who wrote lyrics for this track. Also, side note, Sheena Ringo's releases this year have also been god-awful as well. So with all this support, how did this actually turn out? And all I gotta say is, dear mother of God, this sounds like the most low-budget male idol song I've heard in my life. Okay, well, maybe that's a bit of an exaggeration, but the auto-tune sounds so bad on this entire track, it's honestly laughable, and it makes this track torturous to listen to. I don't even need to add anything more to this review because this concludes the week, and this Sexy Zone track is the worst of the week, and thank God for that, because I was getting a bit nervous that I might not have a worst of the week. However, the only other song I can even consider being a dishonorable mention is Kemonomichi by Mr.Children, which is just uninteresting, and it's honestly not even that bad. Now for this week, and seemingly for the past few weeks, there's been a ton of good entries that have been leaving me really hopeful for 2024, considering the fall season is when normally the new music for next year starts to transition in before the holidays. This, however, made the highlights of the week tough to choose from, but I'm gonna give Dignity by Ado the honor of the best of the week in all caps, because if somehow our team winds up stumbling across this video, I want to make sure my message earlier was loud and clear, with the honorable mention going to Venus by JO1. Before I sign off, I just wanted to give you an update on the short that I was working on. So it turns out that my MacBook that I am making these videos on, it's not formatted in the correct way to recognize my memory cards from my camera. I know, bummer. So I have to get that checked out within some time during next week so I can start making progress on that video. But I'm really excited with the end result. I have my script finished, and now I'm just waiting for the opportunity to get it formatted correctly. But anyways, thank you so much for watching. I'm Drew from Drew Reviews Music, and I'm signing off saying see you next week. Peace!